Today we're going to start talking about the French Revolution. And the French Revolution will begin in 1789 and not end until 1815. The end of the French Revolution is definitely up for debate. So what we're going to look at with the French Revolution is what the French society was like that led to this revolution. So their society was broken down into 3 estates, and these were legal social classes that they called estates. The first estate was clergy, or members of the church, and they were 1% of the population. The second estate was nobility, royalty, princes, dukes, and they too were 1% of the population. And then there's the third estate, the commoners, everyone else. They were 98% of the population. So majority of people were definitely in the third estate. And the king of France at the time was King Louis the 16th, and his wife was Marie Antoinette. From this picture of King Louis and Marie Antoinette, you can see they were very extravagant people. They like to spend a lot of money. And that comes into play because their country was on the brink of bankruptcy and their government was in debt. And this is also after the French and Indian War. Remember, that drove Great Britain into debt. It also drove France into debt. And then France also paid a lot of money to help the Americans in the American Revolution, so they were very much in debt. Commoners were upset with the high prices of goods and an increased cost of living. The wealthy upper middle class are called the bourgeoisie. That's what this word is here, bourgeoisie. And we need to know this, that the bourgeoisie was technically in the third estate, but they were a little wealthy, a little educated, but still part of that third estate. So King Louis actually wanted to reform the tax system to make it more equal and efficient. And so he held a meeting called the Estates General, where all the estates came together and they voted on it. However, each estate only got 1 vote. So even though the third estate was 98% of the population, they only had 1 vote. And oftentimes what we see is the first and second estate kind of work together to outvote. They outvote the third estate. So the first and second estate make up 2% of the population. 2% of the population outvotes the 98% of the population. Third estate thought this was unfair, and this is going to be the start of the revolution. So they leave the National Assembly, the Estates General, and they go literally to a tennis court. And they swear the tennis court oath, where they promise to revolt and that they will revolt at any cost, including fighting. That led to the drafting of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, which we looked at and was very similar to the Declaration of Independence, with Enlightenment ideals heavily influenced in here, saying that all men are created equal, guaranteeing freedoms of speech, press, and religion. So the French Revolution, highly influenced by the American Revolution and also the Enlightenment. King Louis sensed trouble and called for his troops to come in. Once the troops came in, the people revolting saw that as kind of an act of war. And so the citizens revolting are actually going to storm the Bastille. The Bastille was a prison in Paris, and as a symbol, it symbolized the injustices of the monarchy, because what we saw going on in France and what we saw through the declarations of the right of man and of the citizen is the French did not believe they had fair trials. And so the jail was a system of that. So mobs stormed the Bastille July 14th, 1789. The prison fell and the prisoners were freed. More important than just freeing the prisoners, in the basement of the Bastille is actually where the French government stored all their weapons and ammunition. So guns and bullets and gunpowder were all stored there. So they took the prison. It was symbolic. They freed the prisoners, but they also armed themselves, which will lead to the bloody French Revolution. Thanks. Bye.